Hi, today we are going to make a paper plate clock, or if you don't have paper plates at home, I don't happen to right now, I'm going to use some cardstock, or you could just even use copy paper or notebook paper for that matter. So some sort of paper. If you are using paper plates, you get to skip this first part, so just hang on. If you're using paper or cardstock, you might want to find something round that fits on the paper pretty well. I happen to have a plate that's just the right size, so I'm going to just lay it down, trace around it. Okay, so now I have a great circle. Then you're going to cut that out of both pieces. Okay, so you're going to end up with two cut out circles just like that. Now, before you throw your scraps away, you need to make two hands for our clock. So use that scrap. I just cut a strip, making sure that one strip goes from the center almost to the edge of the plate or the circle. And then my other one has to be shorter. Then we'll have an hour and a minute hand. Okay, set those aside. You can get rid of your scraps then. Now, we have to label our clock. And it's really hard to divide it out pretty easily. So what I do is I put a dot in the middle. I used my ruler and I drew a line across. Then I turned it to make a cross or an X. Okay, so now my clock is in 4 shapes. Okay, and you're doing the same thing if you're using the paper plate. Okay, put a dot in the middle, draw your lines, and then I'm going to label those with these numbers. So the top is going to be 12. The line to the right is going to be a 3. The line going down is going to be a 6. And the line going to the left is going to be a 9. Now, we need to fill in our circle with our other numbers. So I'm just going to estimate, and this does not have to be perfect. I'm going to put a 1 here. I'm going to put a 2 there. I'm going to put a 4 and then a 5. So you can see mine are not perfectly spaced. That's okay. We want to try and get them close, but it's not that big a deal. Then over here, I'm doing a 7 and then an 8. And you guessed it, up here, I'm going to do a 10 and an 11. Okay? So now you might want to go over those with marker. Make lines for each number coming down like this. Make those lines pretty bold. Like that. Okay. Then we've got a good chunk of our stuff done. Now the second circle, you're just going to leave it plain. You don't need to write anything on it right now. So we're only doing that on one circle. Okay. Then the next part is we're going to cut some slits into our plate. So you do need a pair of scissors. Go get those if you don't have them. And I'm just going to take it and I'm going to cut it in between each of my numbers. Notice I'm not cutting it all the way to the center, just a little bit. Boys and girls, we're making flaps. So I'm going to take it in between each of those numbers to make some flaps. So you're going to go all the way around, do it between each number like that. Okay? Now comes the fun part. You get to flip it up into a flap. I'm noticing this cut is not quite deep enough, so I'm going to go a little bit further. So I'm going to take the number, I'm just going to pull it up a little bit. I'm going to go around and do that with each one. We don't want them to stay up. We just need to know where the fold is going to be at. Okay. So go around and do that with each one. Just like that. Okay, now the next thing you need is some glue. Okay, so a glue stick works great, or you can use liquid glue. You're going to take this one that you put the numbers on, flip it over, and we want to glue up to those flaps, but not on the flaps. See how I did that? Fill it all in so it sticks really well, but don't go over those flaps. Okay, then I'm going to flip it over. Remember, we've got our other circle that's plain, and I'm going to line it up the best that I can. And our circles probably aren't perfect. That's okay. I'm just going to push it down so it looks like that. Now you can see my under circle's a little big. That's okay. No big deal. Okay, now we need to be able to count by fives. So I'm going to lift my first flap up. I'm going to write 5. That's under number 1. Under number 2, I'm going to write 10. Number 3, I'm going to write a couple of things. So make your number maybe a little bit smaller, 15. And then we're going to write quarter past. And we'll talk about what that means in a little while. Okay? And then I'm going to keep counting. This is going to be 20. Under the 5, I'm going to have 25. Under the 6, 30, but also make your number a little smaller because we're going to write half past. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay? Then under the 7, I'm going to keep counting by 5, so I get 35. Under the 8 should be 40. Under the 9, you guessed it, we're going to write some, so leave a little extra space. We're going to put 45. And then we're going to put quarter till. Okay. And then we go to the 10. That would be 50. 11 would be 55. And the 12 is going to be 60. Leave a little room because we also call that o'clock. Okay? Awesome. Now you're going to just flatten those out. Now the next part, it kind of depends on what you have available. But remember that hour and minute hand we cut out? I strongly suggest that you color them different colors. Just makes it easier. Okay? And you might want to write hour on the shorter one and minute on the longer one, especially if you haven't mastered that yet. You can do like I did and color both sides. Then after you've figured out the hour and the minute, you can flip them over and use the plain side if you want. Okay? So then comes the tricky part, and this you'll probably need help with from a parent. We're going to need a little hole here. My hole punch doesn't reach that far. So, parents, I'm just taking my scissors and poking a little hole. Now, my hole punch does work on these. So, I'm going to punch a hole in the bottoms. Okay. And then you're going to want to attach those. If you have a brad at home, one of these, that's the best thing to use. But if you don't, be creative. Maybe you can get a paper clip to go through the hole and still allow you to turn the hour and the minute hand. Or maybe a safety pin will work. Be creative, see if you can come up with something. Okay? All right. So now you can see I've got my hour and minute hand on. I have also done some marking here. I went between each number and I put 4 little slashes. That's because as you get further in telling time, you're going to have to tell time to the very minute. And so we would count this as 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1 is 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. The 2 is 10. So you want 4 little lines between each of the numbers. Okay? Now comes the fun part. So now you're going to tell time. So have mom and dad give you a time, like say, 1:15. So you can check 15 is on the 3. This would have to be between the 1 and the 2 to be 1:15. Okay, so now you get to play with it a little bit. One more thing before we go. I told you I was going to talk about these. So quarter past, remember when we first put our numbers down, we drew a line across and across. And if you think about fractions, that made 1, 2, 3 fourths, right? Okay, so 1/4 or 1/4 of the circle gets you to the 3. So we could say, if we were saying it was 12:15, we could say 12:15. And it's the same time because it's 1/4 past the hour. And the same thing goes for down here. We could say instead of 12:30, we could say 12:30. Okay. And then when you get over here to the 9, we've got 1, 2, 3 quarters done. We've got 1/4 until the next hour. So this, you could say, would be 1:45. That's the next hour. That means it's not quite 1 yet, but it's 1:45. So in 15 more minutes, it would be 1 o'clock. And that's why we put 1/4 here. Okay? So now you get to have some fun, tell some time with a parent or a sibling, and practice on your own. Have a great day.